Okay, so we all know Charles Dickens, right? Literary giant. But what if I told you one of his most praised novels might actually be, well, his worst? Today, we're diving into J.B. Priestley's absolutely brutal takedown of the Dickens classic Hard Times. This is going to be fun.
So, where does this whole literary throwdown even begin? Well, it all kicks off with one single, really bold claim about Hard Times. A claim that, honestly, set the whole debate on fire.
You see, for a long time, a lot of critics held up Hard Times as this super tough, socially important masterpiece. Then this one influential Cambridge critic, people think it was F.R. Leavis, he took it way further. He basically said it was the only Dickens novel that was really worth your time. Now, J.B. Priestley, he didn't just disagree. He thought that idea was completely absurd. He called it foolish and shot right back with a scorcher of his own. He said, you know what? If you're going to skip any of Dickens's novels, it should be Hard Times.
So there you have it, two totally opposite takes. Is it this singular masterpiece we all have to read, or is it the one you can just skip? Let's dig into why Priestley was so ready to tear this book apart.
All right, so Priestley's first major problem with the book wasn't even about its message or its politics. Nope, it was about the writing. He basically argued that, as a piece of literature, Hard Times just isn't that good.
And he gets super specific here. He says the novel is just a collection of Dickens's worst habits. He points to characters like Gradgrind, the guy obsessed with facts, and calls them flat, one-dimensional caricatures, not real people. And all the big emotional scenes, Priestley says they feel totally forced and over the top.
Now, let's be clear. Priestley is not saying Dickens is a bad writer. Of course not. What he's saying is that Hard Times is a bad Dickens novel. It's missing that weird, magical, deeply human spark, what he calls the grotesque poetic genius that makes all his other books so incredible.
Priestley's next big target? Oh, it's the heart of the whole novel, the setting. He makes the case that Dickens's version of industrial England, this city he calls Coketown, is basically a complete fake.
And this question is everything to Priestley's argument. I mean, think about it. For a book that's all about the brutal reality of industrial life, you'd think the author would know that world inside and out, right? Well, Priestley's big claim is he didn't. Not really.
Priestley just lays out Dickens's so-called research, and honestly, it's almost comical how thin it is. A public reading here, a super quick visit to a strike where literally nothing was happening, and some glances out of a train window. Yeah, not exactly what you'd call immersive journalism.
So what this really means is that Dickens was basically just a tourist. He saw the grim, gritty surface of Coketown, but he had no clue about its soul. He saw all the smoke and the dirt, sure, but Priestley says he completely missed the real human beings, the skills, the culture that was actually alive and kicking inside that world.
And because his research was so shallow, Priestley argued the whole structure of the book feels clunky and fake. You've got the cold, hard facts of Gradgrind's industrial world on one side and the colorful humanity of a traveling circus on the other. But the town is a caricature, and the circus just feels like this random thing he dropped in to make a point, not something that would actually be there.
Okay, so all of this, the bad writing, the fake setting, it all leads Priestley to his final and most damning conclusion about what Hard Times really is. And it's not a work of creative genius. It's something else.
And there it is. That's the knockout punch. Priestley says Coketown isn't a real place that sprung from Dickens's amazing imagination. It's a stage. It was built for one reason and one reason only, to make a political point.
And let's be real about what propaganda is. It isn't about telling a deep, nuanced story. It's about pushing an agenda. Priestley's arguing that with Hard Times, Dickens cared way more about shouting his message than he did about creating a world that felt real. So, why are we talking about this? What's the big deal? Well, Priestley's critique isn't just about trashing one book. He's actually making a much bigger, much more important point about how we judge art. This right here is his big warning to all of us. He's saying, hey, don't get so caught up in agreeing with a book's message that you completely ignore whether it's actually any good as a piece of art. Just because a novel is arguing for a cause you support doesn't automatically make it a masterpiece. And that leaves us with this really tough question, doesn't it? When we look at a work like Hard Times, how much should its message play into our judgment of its quality as art? Priestley's fiery takedown forces us to stare that question right in the face. And, it's a debate that is just as relevant now as it was back then.